Turnbull Library, ko Krasike Takuingawa, ko Aotearoa Moaki o tēnei whare pukapuka o te Alexander Turnbull. Ka nui te haere me te koa ki te mihi ki a koutou katoa. It's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning and to offer a few introductory remarks. The first email was sent almost 50 years ago. Email has been ubiquitous for both personal and business correspondence since the mid-1990s, around 25 years. Almost immediately, archivists, record managers, and librarians have understood that email is a record of communication and should be preserved. We know and have known that email correspondence presents great potential to support scholarly research into contemporary society, provide evidence and records of business and government decisions, actions and activities, and provides all of us documentation of communication in contemporary and digital life. Yet archival repositories of all types, whether public or private, government or cultural, currently face significant challenges to collecting and administering email collections due to concerns about privacy and copyright, the multiplicity of file formats that can be found within email, and the difficulty of processing large, multi-decade archives containing hundreds of thousands of messages. There have been any number of articles and reports over the years as information professionals, including librarians, archivists, record managers, and digital preservationists, have grappled with how best to manage email. Two major reports were published in 2018 and 2019, respectively. The Council on Library and Information Resources report, The Future of Email Archives, and the second edition of the Digital Preservation Coalition's report, Preserving Email. Both of these point to the continuing engagement of the profession and the urgency of our collective desire for tools and a direction forward, published including in May, and the directions forward. ATL 100. This year marks the centenary for the Alexander Turnbull Library. 100 years since the library formally opened its doors in June 1920. As we've celebrated the past 100 years of the library, we are also contemplating what the next 100 years will look like and how we will continue our mission of documenting the lives and activities of people in Aotearoa, New Zealand. We know that work will increasingly mean collecting more and more digital. One of our key objectives for this centenary is raising awareness around the importance of managing contemporary digital information for future generations. As part of that, we'll need to know how to preserve and provide access to the email correspondence we've already collected and how best to manage the email we may collect into the future. And we know we can't do this alone, nor are we the only ones thinking and working on these issues. Today's program features talks from people working across the cultural heritage and information sector, from national and state archives, special collections, libraries and archives, academic researchers, and record managers. And we look forward to robust discussion and sharing of ideas, tools, and workflows. I offer thanks to the support, first of Fulbright New Zealand, for help in bringing our opening keynote, Peter Chan, to the library and to New Zealand to share his expertise, and to ARANZ's Wellington branch in supporting the symposium. And secondly, thanks to all of you for joining us here today to hear and discuss the challenges and solutions to working with email. It's gratifying to see the diversity of organisations and institutions here today. We know some of you have travelled from as far away as Australia to be here, and from just down the road, Archive New Zealand and Te Papa Tongarewa. From universities, including the Hocken, from University of Otago, from Auckland and Victoria University, and from a wide variety of government agencies, including ACC, IRD, MB, EPA, and Emergency Management. And local archives as well, records management and museums from Christchurch, Nelson, Whanganui, Tararua. We're pleased to have you here today because we know that only by sharing perspectives and working together can we find the best tools and solutions to meet the needs of today and the needs of future researchers tomorrow. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to introduce the convener of today's symposium, Jessica Moran, who heads the digital collecting function within the Alexander Turnbull Library, and who from next week will be one half of a duo as Associate Chief Librarian of the Alexander Turnbull Library for 6 months. So well done, Jess and team, for convening today, and please, your turn to take the podium.
Kia ora, Chris. And kia ora koutou katoa. Nau mai ki te Puna Mātauranga o Aotearoa. I mihi ana ki te mana whenua, ki a kui hoki Celia. Ko te karahi kohinga matahiko toko mahi. Ko Jessica Moran toko inoa. Tēnei tātou katoa. Hello, and as Chris said, welcome. Thank you so much all for being here. Thank you, Celia, for getting us started and centered in the space. As Chris said, I am head of digital collections here at the Alexander Turnbull Library and about to be 50% something else, associate chief, which is exciting. But my role today is to welcome you all and to get us started, and also actually just to go over some brief housekeeping notes before we get going. So first, health and safety. There are men's and women's toilets on this level right outside the auditorium and to your right. There are also unisex and disabled toilets in the stairwell on this floor and the next floor up. If we do need to evacuate the building, please go through the main glass doors here and turn left, make your way down Aiken Street to the sort of building site right down the road. Or if you're on a different level and you need to exit, you can also exit out the main glass doors on, or through the cafe on the ground floor. If there is an earthquake, there is no tables to drop and cover under, so just put yourself into the safety position and hold and stay put until you're given further instructions. We know this is a very safe building, so this is a good place to go. Please don't leave the building until one of our staff members gives the all clear. So next up, you may have caught the notes that we are live streaming today's event, which is very, very exciting. And so that will be happening. But because we are live streaming and really just as a courtesy to everyone in the room, during the Q&A sessions, please wait for the microphone so that everybody can hear you. There will be microphones on either side. You may also want to know the Wi-Fi and the hashtag, but I think they've been up there on the screen. So hopefully you can all connect. And if you want to share what's going on via Twitter and social media, then there's a hashtag so everyone can follow along. There are only a few copies of the program in print, but it is all on the event page on our website. And we have put up a PDF that's got the full abstracts and bios of everyone, so you can follow along of what all the talks are actually about and who those people are who are talking, which we've got some great speakers and some great topics, so I'm really looking forward to what everyone has to say. The final bit of housekeeping is Valerie Love has kindly organized a casual after-conference social networking hour, which will be at the backbencher from 4:45. And if you're not from local and you don't know where the backbencher is, it's just right down Molesworth Street, the next block, right across from Parliament. Again, thank you all for being here. I'm so excited that people turned up and wanted to talk about email with me. It's been something that I've been really interested in, as it's correspondence, it's key to archives, but it's so different than just a letter. There's a lot of things going on, and it constantly fascinates me, so I'm really excited to hear all the perspectives that are going to be shared today. Looking forward to the conversations during the presentations, as well as the conversations at our lunch and morning and afternoon tea, which you will see on the program what the times are, and they're outside. They should be in the meeting room across the way, but we've had a little bit of sort of trying to figure out exactly, so they're either going to be in the meeting rooms across from the auditorium, or they're just going to be out in the foyer. It'll be a surprise. Either way, there will be food, which is the most important part. So just a few thank yous before I hand everything over to Peter. First, I want to say thank you to the entire digital collections team, without which this event would not have happened. They have been doing all the bits and pieces and making this work, getting the registrations, organizing and wrangling the program, to kind of taking photographs and any last minute things that needed to be done. For the last couple months, they've been helping with this. So again, it really couldn't have been done without them. Thank you also to the entire public engagement and venues team who've helped put this together and provided all the logistics and background support. And I want to give a special recognition to Sebastian and Mark, who are doing the live streaming and all the sort of data shows and everything, because we are trying to live stream with Zoom for the first time. It's a bit of an experiment for a sort of public conference, so bear with us, but also thank you so much to the public venues team for being willing to experiment on this. Thank you again to Celia and also Joan from ATL's outreach team, who helped welcome us and bring us together, and also just for moral and other support in making sure today came together. As Chris said, thank you to ARANZ Wellington, who made the registration seamless and easy and supported this as an important event for archivists across Wellington. Finally, thank you to Fulbright New Zealand for support in bringing Peter Chan to the library and being kind of the impetus and encouragement to have a public kind of professional sector-wide symposium to share this knowledge, not just with the library or with Wellington, but with people across the country and internationally who are interested in talking about emails and archiving. And finally, thank you to the National Librarian, Bill McNaught, the library's leadership team, and especially to Chris C.K. and Mark Crookston, the Chief and Associate Chief of the ATL, for their enthusiastic support for the idea of spending a whole day talking about email and seeing the importance of today's event. So before I rattle off anymore, I think it's time to introduce our speaker today. I've mentioned him a few times already. So Peter Chan, thanks to the support of the Fulbright New Zealand, has been with us for about 2.5 weeks. Yep. 2.5 weeks so far. He is a digital archivist from Stanford University Department of Special Collections and Archives in California, and is currently a visiting specialist here at the National Library and working really closely with the digital archives team here. I think I first met Peter, I was trying to think of what year it was. It was either 2011 or 2012. And there were very few digital archivists in the world. And he was doing a workshop on using some software, forensic toolkit, to process archives. And there was only maybe like 10 or 15 of us in the room. And he was showing us how to do this. I said, this is great. And when I ended up coming to New Zealand, I knew Peter was somebody that I wanted to keep in contact with as I kind of was learning the digital archivist role and what the difference between New Zealand and the US was in terms of digital archives. And over the years, we've worked together on a few different things. And one of the things we've been working on in the last couple of years, or more than a couple of years, is ePad, which Peter will tell us more about. But since the early demos of it, I've seen that it just is kind of, I've said it before, the future of what you think of when you think of text-based digital archives. a new way to really interrogate and appraise and process, and to be able to deliver to our users archival material in a way that maintains all of the archival principles that are most important to us, while also giving users access to digital collections in a way that takes advantage of the opportunities that digital actually gives us. So I'm really pleased that the library and we've been able to work together and are continuing to strengthen this relationship and allow us to have this event today. So besides being the digital archivist at Stanford, Peter is also the project manager of EPAD, the Email Process Appraise, Discover, and Deliver software. As I mentioned, he pioneered the use of Access Data's forensic toolkit to process born digital archival collections in the US. He has led EPAD trainings around the world, and if you're lucky enough to be able to stick around tomorrow, there will be an EPAD training tomorrow morning. And he has been a visiting digital archivist before coming to the National Library. Unfortunately, not the first time he's been a visiting digital archivist. He's also been a visiting digital archivist at the Royal Library of Copenhagen and the Computerspiel Museum in Berlin. And he is the co-chair of the International Video Game Data Network. So, Peter, thank you so much. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you. So, thank you for the support of the National Library to bring me here. So, as you can see here, I'm in New Zealand. I have to give you this quote. And I think for email, if we don't handle it properly, it may be something that few can now read, and even I don't have to talk, about this. So I'm going to tell you, how the whole archival community try to handle the challenges by archiving email. And as Jess mentioned, so I'm digital archivist at Stanford, and so I want to go directly to the challenges and responses of email from the archival community. So one is collecting email. First challenge is we have to collect the email first. So people are concerning about email, the piracy or the copyright aspect of this. And the other challenge is the digital obsolescence. Digital obsolescence is hardware, software, and files. So we have computer storage media that are no longer used now. We have, I'll show you a photo later, we store things in storage media that we are not using it at this moment. And then we are using software that are not, they are used maybe 30, 40 years ago, but are not being used right now. And the same for files. We create files 30 years ago, but those files cannot be read by modern software. And next is how to preserve email. So we spend a lot of efforts in the beginning of challenging handling the challenge of email is how to preserve it, because it's the first step. So without preserving email, we cannot do anything on email. And next is the screening of sensitive information. That is a huge challenge for everyone who take in email. So people, sometimes they don't want to take in email because they don't know how to deal with all those sensitive information. And of course, after you deal with those screening of sensitive information, then you have the challenge of how to let people know you have those collections. And then how to provide better tools to investigate the email collection. And then in the traditional research, we read letters one by one, we read books, one page by one page. But nowadays, we have what we call distance reading. We use a machine, we use software to read text. So how can we support the digital humanity research by researchers who want to look into email? And then we also want to see how can we link the information in email archives with other information that people publish. And of course, one big challenge is how to scale your tools. The tools that we developed at Stanford, the ePass software, can handle the biggest email archives we have is 680,000 email messages. It seems a lot, but the government have much, much more email message. They have a couple millions of email message for just one people. So that's a challenge that we need to handle. And then the other one is software needs to be maintained. We need constant funding. But the funding model now is project-based. So project-based is, we have a project for 3 years. After that, then we need to find another funding. So the funding model actually don't match with the constant maintenance required for software. So I would go to deal with it one by one. So first, as I say, we need to ensure we collect email. And that's a quote from the provost in Harvard University. We know, the steps of collecting correspondence, which is an important source for historians, for historical research. But we don't have established guidelines to collect email. So we need to establish those guidelines. So I was in the AIMS project in 2010 to 2011. It's a 2-year project sponsored by the Mellon Foundation in the States. So because the collecting institutions are collecting more and more what we call a hybrid collection. It's not just paper, it also have digital material. Digital material may be in hard drive, floppy disk, whatever media, but it's what we call a hybrid collection. So, and people are concerned, how are we going to deal with all those collections? And the early steps of dealing with it, do you know, can you guess what is this? Print them out. Those are, the things, because people know how to deal with paper. So when they receive an email collection, and also at that time, the email we are talking maybe 1,000 email, 2,000 emails. Then they will ask the intern, okay, go ahead, print them out. And then they file it with all paper collection. And then they know how to deal with it. So the AIMS project is a project that, we gather Hall, Stanford, University of Virginia, and Yale University. 4 universities come together with archivists and also technology people to look into the issue, how we can give some guideline on how to deal with born digital material. So at that time, actually, I created a survey of when the curator go to, talk to the people who they want to collect their archives. So not only they should, take the paper material, they should also ask some questions about the born digital material. So one area is email. If you don't ask them, because it's not in their room. If it's in their room, we know, okay, we have to collect everything in the room. But it's not. It's just an email account which resides in the cloud. So then we have to make sure people ask those questions. Do you have an email account? People always don't have only one email account. They have more than one email account. Then we have to ask, okay, what other accounts do you have? and then maybe they have some old emails that are stored in somewhere. Then we have to ask them, where did you store those emails? So we have a checklist for people to go and ask the donor. So make sure we collect the born digital material. So this is one thing we did. Actually, my survey is based on another project, Paradigm, which is headed by Susan Thomas from Oxford University. So he published a guidebook, Paradigm, supporting institution digital preservation and asset management. So this is excellent source of how to handle born digital materials, especially when the time is, the project was finished in 2007. There are not many information about born digital material. This is an excellent source of those information. And of course, now some people know the value of email. The British Library even pay $32,000 for 40,000 emails, almost £1 for each email. And then sometimes it's not we don't collect. We have too many. We don't know what to do. So the NARA is the American National Archive and Records Administration. So they come up with a guideline, what they call a capstone approach. Instead, in the past, they would just tell people, okay, you have to decide which email is a record. And then if it's a record, then you save the record and file it into appropriate folder. But now, because they find it not feasible to ask everyone, to go through the email and then, make the decision which one is a record, which one is not, and then file it accordingly. It's just not feasible. So the capstone approach actually is position-based. If you hold an important position, then all your emails are deemed to need to be transferred to NARA. So it makes the transfer much simpler. And also, the assumption is, okay, all those important decisions, the record must go through people in those positions. So if you hold certain positions, all your email have to be transferred to NARA. So this makes the life much easier. And also, in the past, people, because they are not making the decision of which email is a record, then a lot of time they don't save the email. Now they are saving the emails of all those people holding important positions. So now you say people give you the email, but the emails are in obsolete file formats. I want to show you this photos, okay. This is an 8-inch floppy disk, and the background is this computer. So a floppy disk, almost as big as a modern, laptop computer. So if people give you this, what can you do? Of course, go to eBay. Because, those are no longer produced. They are popular in the 1970s. And then they are not used. So then about 3 years ago, I decided, I should equip my lab with 8-inch floppy disk drive so that I can read 8-inch floppy disks. So I go ahead to buy not only one, because I know, okay, you don't know whether it works or not. So I bought 2 in case, one didn't work, the other should work. So I get the drive, and then I plug it in. And it's not just directly plug it in the power supply of the modern desktop computer, because the voltage is different. The voltage being used by those floppy disk drives is different from the modern day desktop computer. So I have to buy another device that step up the voltage. Okay. You see, when I connect, I saw fire, burning. Burning, and then I was standing. What should I do? Should I run away? Lucky, within a few seconds, the fire died down. But still, it's real fire. Okay, and that's good. That's okay, because I bought 2. So I think, okay, then I plug in the other one. You know what happened? Nothing happened. No sound. No even sound. Nothing. Really nothing happened. So that drive is also not workable. So in the end, I have to buy the 3rd drive. And then the 3rd drive work. And so this is because I have to report to facility. And then they give me this to put in my lab. And I have a workable 8-inch floppy disk drive connected to my desktop computer. Yeah. So this is first challenge. If you are reading, try to read an 8-inch floppy disk. And to my surprise, I thought 8-inch floppy disk was not used for a long, long time, but it was still used last year by the US Army controlling the nuclear weapon. They just retired last year. So maybe the reason why they use it is no hacker know how to hack into 8-inch floppy disk drive. So, but anyway, now they are really retired. Okay, so now I connect the drive. I copy the files out, but my modern software cannot recognize, cannot understand the files that I copy from those obsolete storage media. So what can I do? Luckily, actually those are concerns shared by all people who deal with old email or old files created with obsolete file format. One software company called WireKit Software, they produce a software called Email Company, and then it can read many email files created with old email client. There are also another software called A for Mail. They also create, the software that you can use to migrate files created with old email client to some modern file format, or something what we call a more preservation-friendly format. So now we have the software to convert those files, but we need to know which file format should we convert, so that in future, people don't have to find special software to read those files. So Chris Palm, a professor in University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, so he wrote a report about preserving emails. First edition should be published in 2011, and then they have the second edition coming out just 2 years ago. They talk about preserving emails, and in the report, they mention about Mbox and EML is almost a standard, de facto standard to convert to, so that in future people have less problem of reading the email files. And also the Smithsonian have created a software and also a schema to convert Mbox file into XML. So they have the tools converting Mbox file into XML and also produce a schema. So we have pretty good idea of what we should do to preserve emails into preservation format. email can, you can put attachment in email. So we can read the email. What about attachments? So the attachment may also be created using obsoleted software. And what can we do? Lucky now we can what we call virtualize an old machine. As you can see, on the lower left-hand side, you see that machine actually is Windows 98. So we can what we call virtualize a machine as a software so that we can load Windows 98 into, say, Windows 10 or some web environment, so that if the software need to be read by a software, say, Multimate, who run under Windows 98. So we have a virtual machine, which is Windows 98 virtual machine with Multimate, and then you put that file into this environment. So you can read the files, render the files appropriately. So this is one way that we try to read files created with old file format. And there's a project called Emulation as a Service Infrastructure Project, led by Yale University, funded by Moran and Sloan Foundation. Stanford is one of the partners in that project. And the goal of that project is they want to put 3,000 of different environments. Say one environment is Windows 98 Multimate, another environment may be Windows 98 with AutoCAD. Another environment may be old Apple II environment. So the plan is we have 3,000 of those. Hopefully, you have a file, one of those 3,000 environments will be able to read your files. So now we read the files from obsoleted storage format. We can understand the email file. We can understand the attachment. So can we put the email in the web? Someone think he can. Who is Jack Bush? So in 2000 and I forgot the exact time, but he tried to run for president. And then he wanted to show people he's very open. He was governor for the Florida state for quite a few years. So he wanted to show I'm very open. So he put the email corresponding between the governor of Florida, which is him, and then the citizen in Florida state in the web. And in order to show his open approach. But few hours later, people already say, Jack Bush released email but doesn't redact PII is personally identifiable information. And few days later, have to take down, you can no longer download the email. And fortunately, I download before they take down. So in my demo, or in the workshop, you will see Jack Bush's email. So now we know email is, contains sensitive information, and then also copyrighted information. Because you may get the permission from the donor who write the email, give you the copyright permission. But in an email, you get an email that is replied from someone. There's almost no way you can ask everyone involved to give you copyright permission. So, and this is one aspect. The other aspect is someone's email, they may be okay if a researcher goes to the reading room to read the email message. But they don't think it's appropriate to just post the email in the web. So now we know we need to process email archive for PII, personal identifiable information. And in the report that just mentioned, the Task Force on Technical Approach for Email Archives, they also mention, the copyright or the privacy issue that people need to aware when they process email archives. And in 2013, Stanford got a grant of developing a software to process email archives. So you see the date 2015 actually is we already submit the final report. So we have this in the NHPRC website. NHPRC is the agency that gives us the grant. So the history of the background of the email software is in 2012. 2012, I attend a presentation by a computer science PhD candidate at Stanford University. He wrote a software analyzing his own email using all the computer techniques that he knows. And of course, he knows a lot. He's a computer PhD candidate at Stanford University. I attend the demonstration, the presentation. And then I thought, okay, the software you use to analyze your own email, I want a software to analyze other people's email. And so we agreed to work together. And because, of course, the perspective we use is quite different. We are analyzing other people's email. When Huinga worked on the software looking at his own email, he don't need to filter information, filter the message for personal identifiable information. It's all his personal message. So we have a different perspective, but the basic tools need to be used for exploring an email is basically the same. So anyway, we get the grant. And now we know, basically, the first thing we need to search is in the state what we call social security number, is the ID for each people, whether it's permanent residents or even you are illegal immigrant, illegal residents, you can go to get an ID with social security number. So it's it's very special in the States. But anyway, in order to search that, it's not that difficult. It's just a regular expression search. The social security number in the States, the pattern is XXX-XX-XXXX. So you create a regular expression, search for that. And also, you have credit card number, you may have passport number, you may have driver's license number. All those can be expressed in a regular expression. You can just search it. Because as I mentioned to you before, the Jack Bush archive, the first 3 hours, after 3 hours, people know about social security number is they go to search because they already know, okay, PII is something. And then they go to search the archive, and then of course, they find out social security number in the archive. This is one of the email message. At the bottom, actually, is the social security number. I changed the number into 111223333. But if you write a regular expression, it's easy. You just find it, and then you try to redact either the whole message or part of the message. The other thing, you need to search not only social security number, but also keywords. So, for example, if we received an email archive from a faculty member, in faculty member, they may contain email correspondence between students. So we need to check, grade, education record, underage drinking, academic probation, because all those email, if they contain those words, we have to be careful on whether they should be exposed to researcher or not. So we think about all those, keywords that we need to use to search the email archives. And then, we just put it in what we call different category. And one of the category is recreational and performance enhancing drug use. So our colleague, George Snyder, he go to find out all those recreational and enhancing drugs. So in Jack Bush archive, actually there's a lot of email. Because, Florida people will emails the governor, say, okay, my son or my friend or whoever, taking cocaine or taking some, bath salts. And then not only that, they will say, okay, his name is so-and-so, and then his social security number is what. So that's what, a whole list of keywords you need to search. Not only the social security number, not only, numbers you can express in regular expression. This is actually what we call a lexicon in the EPAD software that we developed at Stanford. So we may create a lexicon called sensitive. On the upper, on the top line, you will see lexicon sensitive. This is, we call it a sensitive lexicon. Under this lexicon, we divide it into different categories: employment, health, legal, personal, recreation, and performance enhancing drug use, etc. Each category, you put in the keywords that you want to search against the email message. So, and then on the right-hand side, if we apply this lexicon to the email message, then how many messages have contained words that are defined in the category? Say legal, the legal category, actually we have 721 messages contain words that we defined in that particular category. Students, we have 177 messages that contain keywords you defined in the student category. So this is one way. That another way, we try to screen out messages with sensitive information. So the EPAD lexicon is designed for user to modify. We use student grade in America. Maybe you don't use the grade, the word grade here, then you change it. Or, you have different enhancing drugs to use here, then you change the, you enhance the category, to include the terms that you want to use. And we work with the archival community in the States, and the Duke University, they are very kind to share their lexicon with us. So the archivists over there process email collection, and then they show us, okay, maybe in a institution email collected at their university, they want to search for complaint, they want to search sexual assault, whatever, underage drinking, legal litigation, financial, all those terms. So those are very useful for other colleagues because they are in the same position of collecting more or less the same material. So I would say those are very good starting point for you to look into when you process your own email archives. So now AI at least is very hot in America. Every newspaper, they will talk about AI. So can we use AI, machine learning, to filter message? Because so far we use regular expression, we define keywords, to search. So actually, the University of Maryland got a funding grant from National Science Foundation. They create a program called SASC so that people can go through a list of email message and then mark some message as sensitive. And the example they quote in the last sentence is, if you label several email messages from Sally about surprise party as sensitive, then other email from Sally with those words might be sensitive too. So you just identify some of those, and the computer algorithm will try to identify all those words in the emails that you classify as sensitive, and then they will apply those algorithms. Actually, they are using an algorithm called SVM, Support Vector Machines, and use this algorithm to give you information to guess, okay, those other emails have similar characteristics according to the algorithm, have the similar nature, then they can present those to you. So now we screen the sensitive information already. Now we are comfortable, we can give the researcher access to all those email messages for their research. And how can we do that? So we give people tools, to look into the email archives. And EPAD got another grant, about almost $700,000 from IMLS to further enhance EPAD so that we have richer set of tools for people to look into email archives. So one, of course, we are very familiar with search. In our catalog, maybe we have metadata search. People can search author, subject headings, etc. In some case, we have full text search. We allow people to give them a search box. They can search, and then the search will search against the full text of the articles or whatever. So this is the system from the New Zealand National Library. And then for Stanford, actually, basically, we have the same. EPAD also have similar. We have what we call a simple search. So now we are thinking, okay, can we do better than traditional search? So we have something what we call a multi-entity search. So the background of multi-entity search is we are making use of a technology called named entity recognition. Named entity recognition actually arises from the computer science machine learning field. So they create algorithm that can look into paragraph of text, and then they can tell you what word is a personal name or organization names or location names automatically. So, and sometimes they also give you date. And so we make use of this technology because if we use name entity recognition to look into the text of email message, and then the computer program can tell us Peter Chan is a name mentioned in the email message. Jessica is the name mentioned in the email message. New Zealand is a location mentioned in the email message. Then it gives us information that are generated automatically. So we apply this idea to what we call entity search. So this is a few paragraph in Wikipedia. In a Wikipedia page, they talk about Jack Bush, and then there's a few information about Jack Bush. I cut and paste the whole paragraph, this few paragraph, into our search box, multi-entity search box. And then after I hit search, I get, you see some of the words are underlined by red color. Some of them are, bold, and it's not bold, it's the color, yellow colored. So the one underlined, is the computer program recognizes is as an entity. So after the software recognizes those words as entity, then actually we are submitting a search query to ask whether the email message contains those entities or not. If there's a hit, then the color is yellow. So, for example, is the University of Texas actually is change the color into yellow, and then actually they have 3 messages in the email archive that contain the word University of Texas. So this may be useful for researcher. If a researcher, they have their own, they wrote about Jeb Bush, and then they can cut and paste their whole paper and then put into that search box. And then EPAD will do entity extraction, extract all the entities mentioned in his own paper, and submit a query to search whether the EPAD email message have messages contain those keywords. So this is a search mechanism that we think is useful. The other type of search we offer is what we call a multi-term search. So the multi-term search is this time you are not cut and paste a free text. The example I quote here is I go to websites and then find out, remember we want to filter out sensitive information from an email archives. So if an email message contains talking about someone have some illness, then it may potentially be sensitive. So I go to find some medical website, and then I find a list of 900 something symptoms of diseases. So, and then I cut and paste all those 900 symptoms into EPAD. And so the same idea. So EPAD is submitting a search query of those 900 items, and then ask whether it is a match of email message or not. If there's a match, we highlight the terms. So we have one message containing the malarious. So again, AI for search. Can we apply AI to enhance search environment? There's an algorithm called word-to-wake produced by Google. So the idea is they use the Google News as the corpus to find out what words, when they mention, they always mention together, talk about together. Say immigration. If I go to search for immigration, then the search engine will try to search immigration, or if it's a stemming search, then they will try to search immigrant or some other variation of the term immigration. But actually, the word-to-wake model will tell you when people talk about immigration, they may talk about illegal immigration, illegal immigrant, illegal alien, deportation, immigrant. So all those terms always, appears together according to statistics in Google News. So actually, illegal alien is a very popular term of describing, illegal immigration in America. So if you just search the term immigration, you won't get the result of the hit from the term illegal alien. So that is the power of the word-to-wake model. They can suggest you some terms that also appears together often. So then you can also use those terms as your search term. So what about if people don't know what to search? Then actually, ePad can give you, you can browse the corpus. We list out all the correspondence that exists in an email corpus. And also, because we use entity extraction, we extract all the names mentioned in email body. So you have a list of all the names. You can browse, what names appears in the email corpus. And ePad actually got further than the normal or regular entity extraction algorithm. We have what we call a fine-grained entity extraction. So we base on Wikipedia. We go to learn, say, for example, event actually is defined in Wikipedia as an entity. So, and we learn from that, and we use the event entity, and then we can see, okay, actually in Ian's corpus, he mentioned about Super Bowl. I don't know why New Zealand people will talk about Super Bowl. But anyway, Gulf War, all those terms are mentioned in the email corpus. So ePad automatically extract all those terms out. So if you don't know what to search, the browsing of all those entities gives you some idea of what are mentioned in the email corpus. So now what I talk about is assume people go in the reading room to read the email archives. But people also ask, okay, it's electronic. Why I cannot see the email in the web? But as I say, there are piracy and copyright concerns. But anyway, in the past, people will just tell you, this is a collection hole in the Getty Museum in California. So they have an email archive, then they will tell you, okay, I have an email archive. And then you can come to our reading room to see the archive using ePad software, or in the past, maybe using Thunderbird or other email client. But ePad actually have what we call a discovery environment. So this is a live site. In this site, we have 4 collections, 1 from New Zealand and then 3 from Stanford. In our discovery site, we give people the ability to browse all the correspondence or search and then the entities as well. And also give them some overall idea of, what's how many messages sent by owner or attachment, documents, etc. Overall statistics about a collection. So a researcher can look at this, and when they click on the message, they won't see the full message. They only see a redacted version of the message, because of the reason I mentioned before, the copyright and piracy issue. So, but this already gives people a much better idea of what the email archive contains, as compared to just tell you, okay, I have an email archive. Do you want to come to our reading room to read it or not? So the traditional humanity research actually rely less on technology. So basically, traditional humanity research, people read papers, one by one. Either it's on computer or not, but it's read by a human being, one by one. But there's this email project processed by the Virginia Archives. They have the governor's email archive, which contains 1.5 million email message. They actually process it with processing algorithms reading the email one by one. And then the result is each email, they convert it into PDF. And they have some metadata about the email message, the subject, the format, the date, etc. But it basically is a PDF file. Each email message is a PDF file. But there's a branch of research now we call digital humanity research. They rely more on computer. So they use computer rather than a human being to read text. So one of the research areas is social network analysis. So this is a diagram produced by social network analysis software, which actually just show you the node of who talked to who. This person, Robert Quigley, talked to another person, and then if they have more message, the length is thicker, and etc. So you can see who talked to who just by looking at this diagram. So this is social network analysis. If you have a bunch of email message in PDF, then it's very difficult to do this because what you need, the source data for this is the tool from CC/BCC field. Then you can use the software to produce diagram like this. If people give you a bunch of PDF, then you have to find ways to extract all those tools from CC/BCC from those PDF. But ePad actually have an export function. You can export all the headers in the email archive in CSV file so that it can be read by the social network analysis software. So, and we have, we also support topic modeling. And topic modeling is, they also use some computer algorithm to look into text. And then they will come up with some words in the middle column. And then a researcher have to give all those words a topic. So, and that is what they call topic modeling. So use computer algorithm to generate some words, and then finally a researcher will decide what is the topic mentioned in all those texts. And ePad also facilitated that by allowing you to export all the text as a text file. So I think maybe I should go a little bit faster. So now we have, we have facility to help not only the traditional researcher, also the digital humanity researchers to research on ePad, research on email archives. So we also think about, okay, how can we publish data so that it can be linked to other data that are published outside? So there's a set of discussion on linked open data. So if, say, one website talk about Jason knows Maria, and then the other website talk about Maria's birthplace is in Italy. The third website talk about details about Italy. Then if we publish the data in a linked format, then people using the appropriate technology will know about more about Maria other than just the information mentioned in the website aid. So this is the idea behind the linked open data. So let me just go fast and then talk about, I put the information in, there's a site called Wikidata. You may know about Wikipedia. Wikipedia is, everyone can go to contribute the information in Wikipedia. So it's a free text. You just write paragraphs of text about something. But Wikidata is different. Wikidata have to be structured data. Say I have to define Robert Quigley email archive, have a main subject. The subject is Iraq war. So you define this, and then I can, someone, not me, talk about Iraq, the Gulf War. Okay, so Iraq War is an example here. Actually, he also mentioned about Gulf War. So someone talk about Gulf War in Wikidata. I can do a query of, who mentioned about Gulf War, and then we get a hit of all those Gulf War. First hit may be a book about Gulf War, and then in the middle, at almost the end, you will see Robert Quigley email archive. And then in the end, you will see Ian's archive also talk about Gulf War. So by putting information in a site that a structured data, then you are allowing people to combine information from different users. So, and I also, mentioned the scalability, sustainability is an issue that we need to face. And here I want to show you the volume. Sometimes when we talk about volume, the George Bush email actually has 210 million email message in George Bush email archives. And sustainability is something what we need to care, that we are still struggling, as I mentioned. So we have first 2 years grant from NHPRC, then we have to apply for funding, then we get a 3 years grant from IMLS to enhance EPAD. This year we have another grant from Mellon Foundation, a 1-year grant. So we are still constantly looking for funding for supporting email. So I hope I tell you something about email as an object which we store somewhere, to a readable file, to understandable file, to semi-structured data, to structured data, and collection as data and linked data. So actually, Wikidata are being used by Alexa or Siri. So this is a scenario that are very possible. We just ask Alexa, who talk about Gulf War in their email archives. And then, a few seconds later, Alexa can tell you the answer. So that's the idea that I want to convey what we have done so far. So I have 10 more minutes, 9 more minutes for questions.
Thank you, Peter. So yes, we do have about 10 minutes for questions. So if anybody has a question about all things related to email, from an object you couldn't even read to linked open data and everywhere in between.
I was curious, what do you intend to do or suggest doing with those emails that are you identify with filters or personal identifiers?
Okay, so we can deal with it in a certain way. Some people prefer, those emails don't put in our repository at all, then we have to delete it. But some people are okay with restriction terms. They may restrict those emails for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or the condition may be restrict until I die. So that are the alternatives that you can have for email message to identify as sensitive.
Do you know of any examples of US government agencies, either at the state or federal level, using any of these tools for helping to respond to Freedom of Information Act requests or Public Records Act requests?
I'm not aware of people using this tool, at least ePad. We talk to people, but I think one of the issue for using ePad, as I mentioned, the volume is one issue. ePad, when we design ePad, is for personal digital archives. So the biggest email archive we have is 680,000 email message. So, but for government, usually they have much more. And then if they want to use it, then we need to enhance ePad infrastructure so that it can handle those volume of email message. But I would say, the idea is that will certainly help people entertaining Freedom of Information Act or whatever request. Even if, don't have to be this request, a researcher reference request. They want some information. Actually, we can use ePad to create a lexicon or, create some search criteria to make the search easier for people. Yes.
I've just got a question about, do you ever delete emails? Because you get a lot of spam, you get a lot of notifications that come out of computer systems. Mm-hmm. So is there also a process where you go through and pick up those words and push the delete button?
So the ePad, actually our software have 4 different modules. One we call a appraisal module. The appraisal module, people, when they identify some email message that they do not want to transfer or they think those email messages have no research value, then they can mark it as do not transfer. And then when they transfer the corpus to collecting institution, those email messages marked as do not transfer won't appear in the institution's collected emails. So, but you have to have an active way to identify all those emails. And as I say, there are a few tools you can do to screen email. The spam email actually is not one of so actually we have some conversation with some researcher of should we delete all those spam email. But some researcher is thinking about, researcher can have different angles of looking into email message. So maybe, some researcher, social science researcher want to look at the email, the spam email at a certain time. So then, they want to keep those emails. So, but anyway, one way to do that is use the AI that University of Maryland use. So you identify, okay, those are a bunch of email message as spam email. And then the computer will, based on those, and suggest, okay, the other 100,000 message is also spam. And then you can bulk mark all those messages as do not transfer. Then those messages won't pass to the collecting institution.
Thank you, Peter. I had a question. I remember years ago when I started using email, it was pop email, so the emails were stored on your computer. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think the email provider kept a copy, mm-hmm. or certainly wasn't accessible to the user. Now, of course, it's completely the opposite. Mm-hmm. Emails are stored by Google or Microsoft. Mm-hmm. So if an email archive is to be collected, is there a way of downloading or what are the problems posed by email archives in the cloud, and what are the risks associated with email archives when they devolve to commercial entities like Google? And
okay. First, the commercial entity, when they find it not possible to host your email, they may close their service. And then, there are many commercial services that you no longer accessible. So this is one risk. The other thing is, say Google, actually you can request Google to give you an archive of your email message. If you request that, there's a Google takedown service. Then you can go to say, okay, I want a archive of my email. Then Google, depends on how many emails you have, it may return to you in an hour or several days, give you a link, and then you can download all your message as one mbox file. So the biggest email archive we have from a professor is actually stored in Gmail. So he requests a Google download, and then the download takes a few days, and it's a 40 gigabyte file, and then he passes it to us. So for some email service, you can have this kind of request. The third way is actually in the software we create, ePad, we have a connection. We can connect to the email server and then download the message to your local computer. So this is the third thing you can do. Yeah. So of course, there are risks of losing all those emails in the cloud. So actually in Chris' report, he also mentioned about one service is you establish a service so that every send or receive email from that server is directed to another server. So that actually prevents some people of deleting their email before they send it, they give a copy to you. Because there's a server sitting at the background of the email server. Whenever you send or receive an email, they will send another copy to a service. So even you delete your email, they will have the copy of the email that you deleted. Yeah. So there are different ways of handling this. Yeah.
Hi, Peter. Emails are often a series of conversations rather than standalone sort of items. So does the ePad or the other software you mentioned maintain that sort of context and that relationship between different emails, or is it more sort of focused on a standalone sort of single email?
Yeah. So we have the idea of thread in ePad. So we base on the subject and then the time. So if it's exactly the same subject and then some of the correspondence, we treat it as a thread. But it's only a guess because different email clients handle those threads differently. So when we download it, we cannot be 100% sure we collect all the thread. But if based on our algorithm, we base on the subject. And then if it's a thread, we will show you, okay, when you click an email message, we will say, okay, how many messages are also in the thread? So when you click that, we will show you all the other email message.
So one more question from work here, and then we'll break for tea.
Hello, Peter. With all this AI and other software processes you're looking at, if you're looking at possibly thousands of people with all the email mailboxes they've got coming through to, say, a government repository, what type of processing power is required to go from having email through to having linked data? It sounds like it's going to be quite a bit of time and very high-end power computers to do all this for that volume of data.
Yeah. So I can give you information on the biggest email archive we have, 680,000 email message. We are using just a regular computer with the one I use is a desktop computer with 60 gigabyte of RAM, and then it takes 4 hours to index all the email message, and that's it. So of course, it's not proportionally. If you tell me I have a 6.8 million email message, it's just 40 hours, I would say no. definitely we need another architecture for handling a high volume of email message. So that's another area that ePad is an open source software. So if an institution or organization think the ePad already got the core search function or the browse function or the entity extraction function that are needed, and they need to scale it up to handle the email message, you are very welcome to enhance ePad for your purpose. But ePad now we can handle 680,000 message with reasonable response time. But definitely we need another enhancement for handling bigger email volume.
Okay. I think we'll close it there for this bit of the session. If you want to talk to Peter more about ePad and email archiving more generally, he will be here for the rest of today. And tomorrow morning, we are doing a kind of detailed demo / workshop looking specifically at the ePad software. So come along to that if you want to have a closer look at how the software works. So now it's morning tea, which will be out there. And if you, let's have a chat, and then we'll be back here at 11. If you want some quiet time, since this is an ATL 100 event, one of our big ATL 100 events at the moment is Puna exhibition, which is just one floor up on the ground floor. So that'll be open all day. So please, if you feel the urge to go and reflect, it's a beautiful exhibition we've got running right now on the ground floor. Otherwise, let's go have some morning tea.